Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. We are talking with Mark Cunningham. He's with the Beacon Center of Tennessee. We're looking at the Pork Report, which is published by the Beacon Center every year. It looks back on wasteful spending from the previous year. And we've highlighted several examples over the course of the show. And we have some more that we're going to go through, but I want to go to, we have a call here from Reverend Fuzz. It's always great to hear from Reverend Fuzz. Hello, Reverend.
Hey, Ben, I got a good question for you.
Go right ahead.
For your guess, okay. $1 billion seems like a lot of money, but what kind of things are used to determine what are companies looking for to decide they're going to come here? What is Tennessee going to get for this $1 billion that we're investing? I mean, not that we're going to get it, but what are we promised or what are we projecting that we might get for this $1 billion that we're investing? And then the second question is, do you know, you might not know this, Ben might know, what is the state's budget? I remember it being $29 billion, but what is it today? Those are my questions.
Reverend Fuzz, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know the number of the state budget. Do you? We maybe can find it here.
It was. I think it was. Yeah. And actually, I think $42.6 billion. $
42.6 billion. So $42 billion. Wow.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so Reverend Fuzz is going back to one that we mentioned earlier, the mega site, the Ford mega site out in West Tennessee, and you said it was $1 billion that was given to Ford to begin building their F-150 electric trucks at that site. It brought that company in. Reverend Fuzz is asking, what are we going to get? What does the state get for that?
Yeah, so I think it was 5,700 jobs was what was promised. I think we have to kind of think about that. It's in an area where almost nobody lives right now. I mean, they say it's West Tennessee, but it's like an hour from Memphis, so it's not close to anything. So I do expect most of these jobs are going to be people coming in from out of state. There's nothing in the contract about them being in-state jobs. And again, the $1 billion is not just to Ford. The $1 billion was total the cost. I think it was $400 million to Ford. It was $400 million to build infrastructure to get over there, and then $300 million just for the site itself. So I mean, this is 5,700. And one of the good things is that as part of the clawback, if they don't create, we're actually giving them money. They're spending the money, and then we're reimbursing them the money for that. So I think it's as long as they hit 85% of their job numbers, they get that. The problem with that, of course, is that the clawbacks don't go to everything, right? The $400 million that we're using on roads and infrastructure for them, if they go to business, we don't get that back. There's no way to get that back. The $300 million already spent on the mega site, that's gone. So yes, there is some clawbacks, which we're happy about. But unfortunately, a lot of these things, even if things don't go well, we cannot get that money back.
And again, it passed in the legislature. So the argument must have been, we're going to build up this area where no people live. There must be high unemployment, maybe around there. We're going to build up this area, and hopefully it becomes a thriving economic center. Once Ford goes in this mega site, others will come. Is that part of the argument, and do you think that's pie in the sky, or is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the argument, and it could happen. I mean, I'm not here to, I can't predict the future. What we do know is a lot of times the promises do not equal what actually happens in that. And it'll be interesting to see that they created a new authority for this mega site. So I do want to, the problem is we won't know how well this worked out for about probably 20 years or 15 years because of how they're going to release the numbers and how long it's going to take to build. But it's important that we keep our eye on the ball, and we need to look at the numbers we do have for other places and see how that's worked out. And that's a transparency issue. The government, whether it's local or state government, is not transparent about incentives. They're not transparent about how they worked out. And they love having the ribbon cutting. They love saying, oh, look at all these jobs we're going to create. They don't like to come back 3 years later and say, oh, we only created 20% of the jobs we said, or we're out of business. They don't make that a press release, So I think it's on people to say that we need accountability, whether it's a local official, a mayor, a city councilman, or the governor. I mean, we need complete transparency on that, and we're going to be watching closely this deal to make sure that transparency is a big part of what happens with the mega site.
I think it is important to have follow-up, and whether that is the media and whether it's written into the contract, yeah, there needs to be that transparency so that we can have that kind of follow-up. Yeah, they promised this. What do they deliver 5 years later? And the media and others need to be on top of that. No question about it.
That's right.
That's interesting. $46 billion is the budget. $46.5 billion, you said. and Reverend Fuzz thought it was $29 billion. Do you think our budget's really high? I mean, I think there's some who would think, we're not as high as certainly other states. What do you think when you hear our budget's $46 billion?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sure what to compare it to. I think it's one of those things you want to look program by program and where we're spending money on. I can tell you that the ECD budget is way too high, and that's the budget that gives handouts to new companies to come in. But generally, it's hard to see without looking at individual programs. I mean, I know that there's waste. We've obviously shown that there's waste in the state government, so the number should be lower. I'm just not sure how much lower it should be.
Another thing that you mentioned in this report, the Nashville Event Marketing Fund. You say that this is funding of events that only benefit the rich. So tell us more about the Nashville Event Marketing Fund that made your list on the pork report here.
Yeah, kind of a reverse Robin Hood, right? Taking from the poor and giving to the rich. That's kind of what we're doing here with the event marketing fund. It's a program that should not exist. I don't know how it became to be, but it's essentially a non-government entity that gets tax dollars to bring, events in there. And a lot of these, so for example, I think this year we gave CARES Money Act to the Music City Grand Prix and Live in the Green. And for those who don't know, CARES Act was for COVID. I'm not sure how listening to a C-list band play on Live in the Green is somehow COVID related, but apparently it is. And but on top of that, they're giving $3.5 million to these other events that were going to come here anyway. Americana Fest, right? That's a Americana Music Festival. We're giving them millions of dollars. The Music City Bowl, which just happened, which is actually a great game between Tennessee and Purdue, got a lot of our money. And this is a mid-level bowl game. It doesn't matter, and they're going to come anyway. We're already giving them a stadium. Why do we need to give them millions of dollars to come here? They're already coming here. It sold out, the Tennessee Purdue game. We don't need to be giving them money. So it's a lot of these issues, and this is from the hotel motel tax. So instead of that money going to the budget, which maybe that can fill the hole that the city council has based on all the emissions testing. I mean, the 3.5 million is more than the 2.9 they collect every year. But you just have to wonder, why are we taking our tax dollars that we should be using on our general budget and giving it to these, rich promoters and these events where, millionaires are running them and making money? It just doesn't make any sense, because none of it is benefiting taxpayers. They're not going anywhere else. CMA Fest isn't going anywhere else. Americana Fest is not going anywhere else. And if someone wants to give them, $500 million to come there, then good, leave.
You say game day chicken wings and caviar. Now, all right, this comes from the hotel motel tax. They may argue that this is paid for by tourists, and it helps. Then they put it back into programs that tourists would go to, and maybe if people go to the Music City Bowl, and then downtown businesses get money. I think that's what they would argue. This is money that comes, that's hotel motel tax. So many Nashville residents wouldn't be paying that because we're not staying in a hotel or motel. What do you think about that argument?
Well, there's two parts of that. Yeah, you're not paying it, but you should be benefiting from it, right? We have to deal with the traffic. We have to deal with all these issues. We should be getting tax dollars from that, and that should be gone towards our budget. If we have $3.5 million in the Nashville budget, that should be there. Why are we subsidizing events that are going to come anyway? Again, this $3.5 million isn't just to make them come here. They were already coming. It's just to give them money on top of what we're already doing for them, which is shutting down streets, which is giving them a stadium, giving them, areas in Nashville to have a concert on. I understand this idea that we need to maybe spend money to bring in events. I might not agree, like the NFL draft, for example, but this whole idea that these events that are already coming deserve millions of our dollars doesn't make sense to me. And I think most Nashvilleians would agree with that. Why are we paying so much money of our money for more traffic? I don't get that.
Another one I'm looking through here, a water park in Jackson. And that's going to hit home with many people here in Nashville because of the water park that was, there was money that went toward the water park at the Opryland Hotel. And so what's the situation with this water park in Jackson?
Well, I think people from Nashville are going to be even more mad because there's also your money used to fund this Jackson water park. This was a state budget item that actually did this. So this was, we got $25 million in local money when we were the Opryland water park, which, as you remember, we put all this money towards it, but you can't actually go unless you're staying there. and paying the hotel motel tax. But unless you're actually staying there, you can't go to this water park. So we put a bunch of money into a water park we can't use. And it's a similar situation in Jackson. The state government is giving them $20 million for the construction of the Great Wolf Lodge Water Park. And it's supposed to cost, I guess, $150 million. And that doesn't include the local tax incentives that they're also going to get from the city of Jackson. So we have to wonder, why should somebody from Nashville be paying their state tax dollars for a water park in Jackson? I don't think that makes any sense. And it's one of those issues, another one we talked about, that I don't think anybody agrees with this. I mean, I'm sure the Great Wolf Lodge loves it, but outside of them, I don't think anybody benefits from this deal. And it's hard to explain to a taxpayer from Johnson City across the state why they should be funding a water park in Jackson. It's hard to ask the Jackson taxpayers why they should be funding it, but certainly people who don't get any use out of it at all, it makes no sense that they're funding this water park.
Sometimes these things were funded, and I don't know, sometimes these types of things are funded because you have a powerful lawmaker and it gets put into a bill. But again, it had to be voted on by the entire legislature. And so somebody from Knoxville, they could have said, what in the world's going on here? I'm not going to vote for that. And that did not happen here. So why doesn't that happen? What do you think's going on? Is it a powerful lawmaker wanting something done for his district, or is it something else? Why does this happen?
I think part of it is when you look at, say Governor Lee or any governor, they say, well, look how much money we're giving to Nashville. Look how much money we're putting in Memphis. We don't put much money in Jackson, so let's give them this water park. It's one of those things that instead of spending money wisely and spending less money in Nashville and less money in Memphis and less money in Knoxville, we're spending more money across the state. It's, I think, some kind of trying to make things equitable in some way, but waste is waste, and we're paying for this waste. So it's hard to justify a water park, though. I do think, there's these certain things that we might disagree with, but other people are like, okay, I get why the government's, paying Ford to come in. How do you justify a water park in Jackson? I would love to hear the justification for that.
Yes, all right, very good. All right, we'll take a break, and we'll come back. We'll continue our discussion. Be back right after this.